In today's world, nothing is private anymore. Our data is being sold to corporations that then use that information to tailor exactly how to part us with our money. There are more surveillance cameras than ever before. At the end of 2021, over 1 billion surveillance cameras are estimated to have been installed worldwide. If we zoom in a little, Delhi, India has 1,490 cameras per square mile. Seoul, 618. New York, 235. And London, 209 cameras per square mile. If you're thinking to yourself that this would make these cities safer, then you might say to yourself, I'm willing to give away a portion of my privacy for an equal amount of safety. But the data shows that there is little correlation between the number of public CCTV cameras and its reduction of crime. These numbers don't even include the steady increase of home or privately owned cameras like Ring cameras or cameras stuffed in the insides of a teddy bear set inside or outside the home. There's a real lack of privacy in society at the moment, and nowhere is it more evident or more self-inflicted than in our daily lives and behaviour on social media. In today's digital landscape, people share more and more of their lives to an audience. Their interests and hobbies, their likes and dislikes, their dating stories, relationships, weddings, marriages, children, along with their personal or embarrassing stories, controversial opinions, and recounts of relationship breakdowns with partners or friends, with all the gory details of cheating or otherwise specified betrayals. Sharing some of your interests and opinions is not a bad thing in and of itself. It makes you feel heard and listened to, and it builds connections with others. It has gotten to the point, however, and I feel a lot of people feel the same, that we as a society share too much, to the extent that there are so many examples where it has damaged real life reputations and relationships because of how much has been shared online. No one is explicitly telling us to share so much online, so why do we do it? Well, there are the obvious reasons why people share online. In a busy and isolating world, more people use online interactions to mitigate the increasing inability to meet and catch up with friends and loved ones. In fact, some people's only form of social interaction is online. And let's not forget, attention is an addictive drug, and sharing more online, including more personal or controversial information about yourself, is likely to get even the most obscure people attention for a period of time. Influencer marketing is a viable career option for those who can utilize their relatability and or charisma. Really, the possibility of getting rich and famous or springboarding your career by a piece of content going viral is an increasing motivation for users on the internet. But those reasons are surface deep. Anyone could tell you that. I want to know whether there are some underlying psychosocial elements which would motivate the sharing of ourselves online, something informed by the particular nature of the current digital landscape. Well, I headed to the proverbial books. Proverbial, since almost all the research I did for this topic was all online, and started digging, or diving in, or surfing, or whatever analogy you prefer. And while this is only the very start of the conversation, I found some relevant insight into the social and psychological reasons of why we want to share so much, as well as the dangers so much sharing can do to us, practically and psychologically. Should let you know now that this video is less a reaction video and more a social science deep dive with some examples to illustrate my point. Ironically, the main point of making this video is thinking aloud about this weird phenomena of online use and existence, and I hope it sheds a little pseudo-academic light on the underlying reasons why someone might do this, for example.
Your significant other. Damn, I look mad pissed lol.
Instead of the very viable option of keeping it to themselves, their loved ones, or a few very choice selection of friends. Well, hello there. This is Zurich, and I've read way too much on this topic. I hope you find it interesting, and if you do, please like and subscribe for more deep dive cultural essays that no one asked me to do. So, without further ado, why is nothing private anymore, and why is this so bad? the digital world's impact on constructing a person's identity. So before I get into the reasons why we share too much, here are some initial concepts that will make the following arguments make a lot more sense. To start off with, according to Belk, knowingly or unknowingly, intentionally or unintentionally, we regard our possessions as parts of ourselves, which can explain why we get so annoyed when someone loses something they borrow from us. He also states that there are two different types of senses of self, one being an individual self with an inner core self, and our aggregate selves, which I understand to be group identities ranging from family to neighborhood to nation. He summarizes his argument with the notion that our possessions enhance the various levels of our identity or group identities and form part of our extended self. Belk says the major categories of our extended self are our body, internal processes, ideas and experiences, and those persons, places, and things to which one feels attached. So to summarize, we see our possessions as an extension of our identity. We have different types of identity, our individual sense of self and our sense of self within any certain group, like our family, our neighborhood, or our nation, called our aggregate self. And the things about ourselves that make us who we are, some of those being our bodies, our thoughts, our experiences, as well as the people, places and things that we like and feel attached to, inform a part of our identity called our extended self. Going from this hypothesis, there's clearly a stark change to our extended self possessions between the pre-digital era and now. Before the digital era, the way we would build and express our identity, as well as our identity within the various social circles that we have, would be with physical extended self possessions that express our different interests, beliefs, and memories. Maybe you would get a tattoo or make a mixtape. You could collect CDs or DVDs. Perhaps you would collect postcards from museum dates, maps and keychains from family holidays, or wristbands from concerts you went to with your best friends. Nowadays, we construct our sense of identity more and more digitally. Instead of CD collections, we have Spotify playlists. Instead of DVD racks, Netflix. Instead of posters lining corner to corner of your bedroom, someone might have an extensive Pinterest board. How does formulating your identity digitally make it more likely for people to be open to share these aspects of themselves online, for people to instill their privacy in order to formulate their identity via digital means? Because there's no doubt about it, they do share a lot. The clarity of crafting an identity online. Marco Rico Peng is a daily life content creator. With 98.9k subscribers as of recording, Marco documents different aspects of his life in his 20s, from swimming in the hopes of qualifying for the Olympics to working as a software engineer in New York, all the while sharing his thoughts, opinions, and answering personal life questions for his subscribers. Though I haven't watched all of his content, from the little I have seen, I get a cohesive image of his personality. He seems like a young, conscientious guy who has different interests, likes to be productive with his time, and has high ambitions for his life. Jamie Otis is, according to her website, an American TV personality who has featured in TV shows including The Bachelor and Married at First Sight, is a registered nurse, an entrepreneur, and a TV host. She very well could call herself a bona fide mommy blogger as well, you know, a person who builds an online brand / identity based on their parenting life, with 910,000 followers on Instagram as of recording, documenting her family life, including her son's health complications and her ongoing fertility journey. There have been some criticisms that Otis's habit of sharing every aspect of her and her family's life is both concerning, especially for the mental health and future reputation of her children, and disconcerting and uncomfortable for her audience. Here are a few videos that showcase the aspects of her life that she regularly shares to her audience, and you can decide for yourself if this is the type of personal information you should be willing to be accessible to strangers on the internet.
Something's off with our son.
Hendrix.
Something's off with our son.
Hendrix. Hey.
Something's off with our son.
Yeah.
Doug.
Okay, hold on.
It's okay, Henley.
Hendrix.
It's okay. Hendrix? He's gonna seize, I think.
Oh.
Call 911. Please, God, call 911.
Someone's ovulating. Now we go home and make a baby.
I'm gonna take a pregnancy test. I'm like ready. I got my stack of pregnancy tests. Isn't my first P, so it might be negative. I'm gonna tell myself that first of all. We tried harder than we have in a long time. We had the chances to try harder because we were not with kids, and so we were at hotel rooms and able to just execute. Essentially, I have a blocked fallopian tube, and so I thought if I try to eat healthier to reduce inflammation, that will hopefully open up that fallopian tube, and then I'll have better chances of getting pregnant, like without needing help. And I'm a TMI wide open book, share everything. So here I go, peeing on the stick. That was a lot of pee. I held it so I could try to see, but I don't see even a faint line. Just F and A.
So, building an online identity makes it easier for someone to share personal things about their life. Why? There is a theory which asserts that the public-facing nature of crafting a digital identity inherently makes the identity you formulate more established and obvious within your own psyche and in others. In relation to Goffman's ideas about the presentation of the self, the ability to publish our playlists online can say a great deal more about us than opening the windows and cranking up our stereo. People like to be understood and to understand themselves with confidence. Perhaps individuals who build their identity online desire the obviousness of their identity that comes when it's formulated digitally, and so inherently in public for any eyes which may stumble across their page. There is another theory that comes to the same result. That is, someone being more willing to discard privacy when establishing an identity online. The reasons it argues, though, are pretty opposite to the obviousness of establishing a digital identity theory I just mentioned. The weakness of crafting an identity online. This other theory suggests that digital possessions cannot build someone's identity as strongly as material possessions can. The result being, that person would have to share more to have the same effect that physical extended self possessions, those maps, postcards, wristbands, would have in clearly showing a coherent picture of someone's identity, at least to themselves, if not so much to others. Philosopher and cultural critic Walter Benjamin suggests that it's the public nature of a collection that reduces its potential for individual meaning. He muses that the phenomenon of collecting loses its meaning as it loses its personal owner. Even though public collections may be less objectionable socially and more useful academically than private collections, the object only gets their due only in the latter. This supports the idea that people, consciously or unconsciously, recognise that these digital extended self possessions are not as integral to one's sense of self than material extended self possessions, and so may find themselves with less hesitancy in keeping them private. The cause might be lack of true ownership, and thus control of these possessions once they're online. Belk has the idea that our perceived control of our digital extended self leads us to feel that these things are a part of us. However, since we do not actually own any of the digital possessions that we control, a fact made abundantly clear if Instagram deletes your meme account or you get banned on YouTube for making an edgy joke, the feeling of tenuousness in actually controlling ephemeral digital possessions is another reason that leads us to feel vulnerable and regard them as less central to identity compared to tangible possessions. Equally, research suggests that it is rather the intangibility of digital extended self possessions like Spotify playlists, Instagram accounts, or Goodread libraries which reduces its importance to one's sense of identity. Whether it is because the public nature of a digital identity makes it more established to yourself and others, or oppositely, the publicity, intangibility, or sheer lack of value value of digital extended self-possessions means more personal things are needed to be shared to craft an adequate digital identity. The result is a person has a strong motivation or otherwise a certain level of flippancy to reject privacy in order to successfully craft a cohesive digital identity. The dangers of foregoing privacy to share more on the internet. So we've covered a lot of theories why people feel more inclined to share more of every aspect of their lives, be it their knowledge, interests, feelings and opinions, as well as factual or personal details like family interactions, past recollections and embarrassing confessions. This can add up to a lot of sharing. All this sharing doesn't come without any dangers. In fact, there is a whole host of dangers that could come from an individual's proclivity to share their whole lives online without concerning themselves with the growing sacrifice of their privacy. There are two main categories of danger I'd like to discuss: practical and psychological. Practical reasons. Number one, danger of burglary and scams. The more you share of yourself online, the more vulnerable you can become in being a victim of a burglary. In case you didn't know, criminals check social media posts to see when a home is best viable to be successfully broken into. Similarly, the amount of people who get scammed online because scammers are able to exploit information from someone's social media is unreal. This extends to romance scammers who exploit a person's desire for companionship, which they themselves clearly express in the type of thoughts and feelings they self-disclose on their Facebook page or in an Instagram post. Number two, it can result in reduced hireability or reputational damage. This is a big one. Present and future employers will look at what people disclose on the internet, and it does catch up with them. This woman got a tech job and started to make TikToks, which swiftly got her fired from said job.
So, I got fired. Yeah, my big 6-figure remote tech job. Yeah, they canned me. And you guessed it, it was because of a TikTok. Last month I took a very quick video. I had forgotten to put my mug underneath my Keurig one morning, and so my coffee spilled all over the place. And I took a quick little snippet of the coffee everywhere. I turned it around my face. I said, fuck. I hit stop recording and I uploaded, and I did not use my big giant brain to think about the fact that in the background of that video, you could hear my chief product officer talking, because I was in a meeting. Yep, it was about 4:30 in the morning. I was in my weekly team stand-up meeting. They were having a conversation that had absolutely nothing to do with me, so I went off camera, took the 20-second video, and hit upload, and I did not think anything of it until the next day when I got called into a meeting with HR and my chief product officer, and they said, hey, somebody sent us this video, and we are immediately dismissing you from the company for gross negligence. And I said,
Psychological reasons. The psychological dangers are just as bad. There is research suggesting that those who use social media as an avenue to abundantly share their life and engage in confessional self-disclosure are less emotionally stable. It should be said that research expressing the benefit of social media sharing in this regard remains to be seen. There is also real danger in the consistent validation and attention seeking that is found online, as well as your sense of identity being reliant on the external feedback from those who are not sufficiently close to you. The issue of parasocial relationships has been a big topic in recent years, and you shouldn't forget that the more you build strong online communities, the more those communities of strangers can hurt you emotionally and reputationally with real tangible consequences. I think I'll stop there. What can I say to round this off? I mean, the internet is a great place full of information, resources, and entertainment, as well as a place where you can craft a digital identity, experiment and express your individuality, and connect with others, all at the touch of a button. But you have to remember that the internet, especially social media, is not your real life, and it should not have excessive influence on who you think you are and where you think you belong. Maybe instead of relying on digital possessions to inform your sense of identity and community, go outside into the real world and get physical possessions that are not accessible to the innumerable audience of the internet. Buy books, collect CDs. Then again, the object doesn't have to be expensive. You can even make them yourself. Collect seashells or Pokemon cards. Keep a private diary. Keep a photo album. Keep friends. Go to coffee shops or football clubs. Hang out and share stories in person. That way, you'll be able to have a more secure and tangible extended self, not reliant on the digital world, which, when you think about it, is essentially a world of strangers.